For anybody who's not familiar with organizing in America today, talk about a war. They'll fight you tooth and nail. They break every law there is. Some of you guys have organized, you know what I'm talking about. And that's just one aspect of the war on workers, is that they've taken those labor laws that we fought for, that you'll see in this PowerPoint, and they've just hollowed them out, so they're meaningless here. Just like we have the right to strike in this country and can't be fired for striking, but you can be permanently replaced. I mean, what's the difference, right? So that's a law that got hollowed out, and we're the only country in the world that allows that. It used to be us in South Africa until Mandela put a stop to that in South Africa. So now you go out on strike, and unless it's a ULP strike, it doesn't matter if it's ULP or economic, you're still going to be out, watch the scabs come in, take your job. But when they can't get you to strike today, what's the other war they do? Lockouts. That's their new thing. There's been more lockouts in the last 2 years than ever. I know down there at Caterpillar in Indiana or Illinois, they went on strike. They demanded their pensions back. They demanded wage cuts of 20%. They were out on strike. They brought the scabs in. They tried to keep them out, and the workers said, and they had the highest. Caterpillar had like their best profit year ever. And that's what's going on in this country. This war on workers that our union calls a war on workers, right? But their big weapon, what they're doing, as everybody knows, is, you know, this right to work shit. It started in India. Well, there's 24 states out of the 50. The last one was Oklahoma. The next one after that was Indiana, Michigan, where the auto workers got their start, right? Where the unions started with the sit-down up there. And actually, the first sit-down strike was in Akron, Ohio. If you know your history a little bit, you know, Akron was actually, the immigrants came over. It was a tactic they used in Europe. So they used it over there in Akron at the Goodyear plant, or Firestone it was. But then it took on full form up there when the UAW, we got that first contract, one-page contract, right? Recognition of the union. So this war has been ongoing. There was a little labor peace, which I'll quickly get into, a little social contract when we were doing 90% of the manufactured goods for the world after World War II. And then 1980 comes along, and the social contract is, with that piece of crap, Reagan bust the unions, sent the message to, and now it's intensified with this attack on right to work. Real quickly and up to date, this was out of the Beacon Journal yesterday. The City Council in Akron and the Summit County Council both passed resolutions opposing right to work. But in this article from the Beacon yesterday, it says, you know, those pieces of crap pushing this thing, they claim right now that these, the people they have gathered 100,000 signatures so far. Now, if one of you guys are more on top of that, we need to know that number. But right now, 100,000. Once again, they got till July 4th, I believe it is, Fred? I think that's, sure. Somebody knows the figure, right? There's a day in July that if they don't get it by that date, if they get it before that date, then they can get it on the ballot this year, which is what they would prefer, right? But if not, and they don't get those 386,000 signatures, X amount of signatures from each of the 88 counties, then it has to go on the ballot in 2014 during the governor's election. And that's when the Republicans are trying to get them to back off because they don't want a mass outpouring like we had with SB 5 in the governor's election. So it's still to be determined. They're paying, the rich are paying people to go out there and collect signatures, and they're at all the gun shows and every place else the right wings teabaggers show up at, right? So anyhow, we put this together on this PowerPoint presentation about right to work. It's got a basic Teamster theme, but you all, I think, will appreciate it. It talks about our history and labor. So let's go ahead and roll it. Right here, the war on workers. This is a quote from inside this magazine cover, which to me captured what's going on in this country, and especially for all us union guys. You can't read it, but that you've seen that sign. You know, pry my union card from my cold dead hands ever. In other words, just like what we say there, what Hoffa said inside this magazine, a war going on all over the country. It's over the future of our country, right? Our enemies have the money, but we got the people. And that's our job, is to go educate the people and let them know. Non-union, you're going to get your shit kicked out of you too if the labor gets there. We hold the sky up for those non-union people, right? So, and what Hoffa said is we have the people and we will never, ever give up. And those of you who hold union dearly, you know that. We will never, ever give up. We're in the crosshairs now, like I said. Oklahoma, Indiana, Michigan. Now they got the guns aimed at us, and they're out there trying to collect the signatures to make this happen. So right to slave is what I call it, is coming your way. And like I just explained, they get the signatures, it's going on the ballot. And that's a tough sell to tell the people who aren't educated. Oh, they're going to bring in jobs. Oh, they're going to bring in, that's their #1 selling point. It's not true, but that's what they're going to be telling the public out there. All you got to do is listen to them. It's no conspiracy. They talk straight open. The 1%, the ones that are behind this right to work. They don't fool around. They're honest, brutally honest. And Warren Buffett, listen to what he said. There's class warfare, all right, but it's my class, the rich class, that's making the war, and we're winning. And he's right. This attack on us, they're winning. They're not going to win the final war. Another guy. I took this out of a newspaper clipping from the Akron Beacon Journal from the Business Writer. And what this CEO of Goodyear, Jabral, he was from India, but he was the CEO. Here's what he said. Until we drive the wages of the American worker down to those of the Mexicans, we cannot remain competitive in this global economy. They're straight up honest about what their game plan is for America. And like those cartoons show, there's a Democrat and a Republican, cheap labor. Some of our own Democratic friends aren't much different, guys. And over here, that little cartoon, Mexico, I thought we were heading north. Yeah, we are. They want to turn the United States into the Mexican third world working conditions. Union workers should know our history and learn from it. Over here is what Martin Luther King said about back then. This was back in the 60s. In our glorious fight for civil rights, guard against being fooled by false slogans such as right to work, provides no right, provides no work. Its purpose is to destroy labor unions and the freedom of collective bargaining. That is exactly the purpose of right to work legislation. Go after us, the organized sector of labor. Over here, history is a great teacher. And he goes on to say, those who attack labor forget these simple truths, but history remembers them. I think we got to know our history when we get into this battle. A lot of us got to remember our history. Here's a little flashback on our history. In the beginning, you know, around the 1860s, Industrial Revolution, you think workers were just going to sit there and take it? No. Like I said, a lot of immigrants, came over. They already were starting talking unions over there. So they will help push this whole idea, but we wouldn't have needed it. The American worker would have came to the same conclusion, right? So they just set out to destroy it. How they do it? Use the cops, beat the hell out of the workers, jail us, hang us. I always say that if down at the Citizens Council in the South, if they would have caught a black guy and a union organizer, and they could only hang one of them, I'll guarantee which one's being hung. Our children were in the mines, our children were in the sweatshops, our children were in the mills, textile mills. They didn't care. They stole our children's childhood. To stop the formation, then if that didn't work, all that individual stuff, then they used their own corporate militias, their corporate thugs. If that didn't work, state militias got used to break up the unions. Then the National Guard got used. U.S. Army would be used. There's histories of U.S. Army shooting workers throughout our whole history of trying to build unions. We faced bayonets, we faced down bullets. But they couldn't stop us. The courts were after us all the time. They always had their old rogue justice people. Oh yeah, it's a conspiracy against America. Oh, it's a communist conspiracy. Oh, they used the Sherman Antitrust Act against us. Oh, you were coming together to stop corporate world from growing and all that. So the judges were no good either. They were in the pockets of the corporation. Especially that judge over there, Pee Wee. This is how the workers, this is a poster from back then. At the turn of the century, and this is how the workers back then viewed it. At the top of this system that we work under, there's the 1%, we rule you. The robber barons, they were called back then. Underneath them was we fool you, and that was the churches, that was the media, that was the universities, the schools. Underneath them then was we shoot you. Like I said, the military, the U.S. National Guard, everybody they called out. Under them is their worshipers, and it says, we eat for you, is the statement they have there. And at the bottom, holding up the whole thing, is us, the workers. It says, we work for you, and we feed all. And that's how they looked at this system back when they were trying to crush the unions. Here's the big battle for us, the Teamsters, that really set the stage. for what eventually we ended up getting was the labor laws. In 1934 in Minneapolis, it was street war. It was the trucking industry grew from this. The Teamsters, Central States, and the whole trucking contract that we have now, the Master Freight Agreement, grew out of this. The organizing tactics, everything. It was the workers in that city against the governor, the mayors, and the citizens, and the trucking owners, and they lined up and they were armed. So when they called workers, come down to a meeting, bring your baseball bat, your tire iron, chains, whatever you have, because that's what we're going to be facing. And it was out of this major battle in 1934 with the Teamsters, and we won that thing, and we got the contract, and from there we spread out and organized and got the Master Freight Agreement, and from that grew the Central States Pension. But because of that fight in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and St. Paul, at that time, that was 1933-34, the elected officials in our country had to go, wait a minute, this is street war in America, and if we don't stop it, something's going to happen. So out of that, we end up with them understanding it's either going to be revolution in the streets, because we're not going to put up with this, or else they're going to co-opt the system and put it into a nice law and say, workers, you finally got a right. You got a right to organize. You got a right to strike. In 1935, that's what gave us the right to sit down, collectively bargain, organize, and these are the rights I was talking about that they've been chipping away at ever since. So here was 1935 National Labor Relations Act. That didn't stop the war, but at least now we can try to move into some civilized attempt to build our unions. Then came World War II, and 3,250,000 union members said, I'm leaving here, I'm going to go stop this madman. You think they didn't read about what he did in Germany? His first act as chancellor, when Bismarck gave him the chancellorship, his first act in power was he declared trade unions illegal. Very first act. And then if you didn't go surrender your card, you got sent to the labor camps. And the historians said 2 million of our labor union brothers and sisters in Germany met the same fate as the 6 million Jews did then. Here's what Hitler's saying there. We must close union offices, confiscate their money, put their leaders in prison, reduce workers' salaries, take away the right to strike. Sound familiar today? But our union brothers and sisters knew what was at stake. Here's a poster from them. Free labor will win. It was no different than even the Civil War, guys. A lot of workers, they weren't tied up in the morality of slavery, but when they realized if the South wins, slavery's all over, how am I going to get a job when they don't have to pay anybody? So that's why tons of union people in the Civil War signed up. That's why 3 million signed up then. They knew what it meant if Hitler won. Trade unions are gone. We have no voice. We're under the master's foot. So the war ends, 46. Republicans get both houses. Here comes the infamous Taft-Hartley Act. The one that said, I'm going to take the right of workers to decide if this is going to be a union shop and everybody pays. Because that's who decided that question before. When you organized a place, guys, in your contract, union shop, majority, absolutely. They took that out of the hands of the workers and said, oh no, state legislatures can make that decision now. That's what Taft-Hartley did. Plus they outlawed the secondary boycott. That's how we actually built the Master Freight. Shut down terminals. You're not union, you're not getting a delivery there. They took tools away from us in this Taft-Hartley Act. But it didn't stop us, because by 1953 or 55, 1 out of every 3 workers belonged to a union. And we, the Teamsters, with our trucking industry and everything we had, we were the largest. We hit 2 million members of the Teamsters did. Now here's a leaflet that says, thanks to the labor movement. This was an old one. And you guys have all seen this, right? Thanks to the labor movement, we got the weekend off, we got overtime, 8 hours, minimum wage, paid vacation, sick days, safety standards, child labor laws, health benefits, retirement security, unemployment comp. We did that. Our forefathers, us, the union people did all that. Over here, take a look at that one. You'll never see this again. Here's a Republican poster. Young Republicans salute labor, and at the bottom there, attend your union meetings. That day's long gone. Then, we're the strongest union, the Teamsters, and boy, they couldn't stand that. When a guy named Jimmy Hoffa built up the Teamsters, said, I can shut this country down, he wasn't kidding. You stop the trucks in America, nothing gets delivered, he can bring the country to a halt. And our enemies knew that. And as this magazine, the #1 magazine of its time, was on every kitchen table and every living room, And here's the message from this magazine, a national threat, Hoffa's Teamsters. So during this period of time, like I said, we made everything for the world, just like China does today. We were the manufacturing center of the world. Now we're a service economy, right? So here comes the social contract is broken, and here's one of the reasons why their corporate profits fell from 16% down to 9%, and corporate world says, man, we need somebody to get in there. Domestic agenda's got to be to go after the union. They found their guy, you know, Mr. Bonzo over here, where the monkey had a higher IQ than that guy did. Take a look at this chart. What just shows what this war on workers here, right? Starting in '67 all the way to 2009, as they came after us and our union rates dropped, as they shipped our factories overseas, as they attacked the unions, outsourced everything that they did to try to stop us. Here's middle class income, right alongside of it. Attack the unions, you're going after the entire middle class. 2010 comes, guys, not too long ago in anybody's memory. And what they want to do in 2010, they want to change the narrative that the big top 1% and the banksters, they're the ones who took our economy and put it in the toilet. The new narrative is, oh no, the workers, they're getting too much money. You know, the public sector workers, oh, they're paid. This is why public people, this is why Americans, why your things are going bad and the wages are going down, because you're paying too much of these people. Take their pensions, take everything. Here's a poster, Stop the Republican War on Workers. Over here, our president right now simultaneously introduced right to work in 14 states in 2010. An agenda that they were well coordinated with. It wasn't just, oh, let's do it here, let's do it there. And they upped the war on workers in 2010. And we're facing it just 3 years ago. So are we going to work in slave states, or are we going to work in free states? Let's take a look at back in the Civil War. Right prior to the Civil War, this is what it looked like. Red was free slave states, green is free states, and then those territories hadn't been decided yet. A lot of nasty war went on there too. Over here on this side, right now that's the way it looks. The blue is the free states, the red are the slave states, of the wage slave states of America today. And they're not going to be happy until they get a national right to work. That's their goal, to crush labor, to crush us. Here's what right to work or right to slave means for us, for U.S. workers. I know that figure's higher than what this thing is showing over here. Right now, the new figure, and maybe our brother can talk about that, it's up to $6,000 some dollars difference between what an average worker in a right to work states and what we make in these the union states, the ones that have the free union still. But in these other states, poverty rate's going to go up. Health benefits get crushed under right to work states. Workplace fatalities, you think the boss is going to care about safety when he knows that, oh, it's right to work, the unions are weaker here, right? Over here, your employer will smell blood, guys. And here's a quote at the bottom of this old, back in the 30s, once again, poster. It says right to work equals rip-off, and what it says at the bottom, I am opposed to right to work legislation because it does nothing for working people, but instead gives employers the right to exploit labor, and it's a statement from Eleanor Roosevelt. Here's what this can mean at your workplace if this was ever to come to Ohio. You're going to have less representation. You know our brothers and sisters, some of them are going to go, I get everything that's in that contract, and the union's got to represent me, and I can choose not to pay a dime. You know some of our brothers and sisters are going to go that route. If that happens, you know there's going to be cutbacks. And all these locals we have 26 locals in the Joint Council 41. And the auto workers, and the steel workers, and ASME, and the SEI, everybody, right? They're going to have to be cutbacks. Less money's coming in. They're going to have to be changes. Less people to go out there and represent the workers. You think that employer's not watching who's paid and who's not, who chose not to be in the union? You think his hand's not going to be strengthened in negotiations? It's strengthened right now when you have an economy that's only going this much high, and the true unemployment figure is close to 15% in this country, not that government figure. Just double it to get an honest figure. And that's why what they're doing as an organizer, I hear these stories from these non-union workers we try to organize, the stuff that's happening to them, the benefits they're losing, their health care is going through the roof. And this is with the unionized shops. These employers will be feeling their oats. Division and stripe, you know that. In the shop, that was my friend. Now you choose to be right to work. You choose to be a freeloader. You know what's going to happen. division is going to come back to our shops, our union shops. Union has to represent those free riders. There'll be many attempts now at decertification. The boss will be taking a look. How many dropped out? You got a shop with 20, 9 of them dropped out. He's going to be pushing decerts. Oh, it's illegal. Yeah, right. Okay. Employer's going to slow walk grievances, guys. Safety issues, ignored, right? Let's pay fewer benefits, non-union conditions until we drive the wages of the American worker, right? At the state level, our friends, those that exist still, right? We're not going to have enough money to get them elected. It's part of the attack here. There'll be more attacks on workers' comp, more attacks on unemployment compensation, pensions. They had 2 cities in California that voted to take away pensions from workers. 2 big cities out there, San Jose and no, I can't think of the other one, right? And they put the question on the ballot, and the citizens said, oh, I don't have a pension. Take their pension away from those public sector workers, right? So that could come to Ohio, too. You'll see SB 5 come back, right? This becomes right to work. The attack won't end. You might have to have what they attempt in some of these states. Well, we're not going to allow dues deduction in your contract. You go have your stewards collect the dues. You know how tough that's going to be? Yeah, I'll get you next week. Yeah, I'll get you next month, right? The union rate at Ohio is 13.5 right now. It's going to drop under 10% if right to work hits us. Indiana lost 56,000 union members, 56,000 after right to work hit their state. Wisconsin, when they eliminated collective bargaining for public sector, lost 50,000 union people up there. We don't have the word on Michigan yet, but there's going to be tens of thousands in Michigan who are going to, oh, I get this for free? So what can you do? That's what we're here for. That's what we're here for today. What can you do? 1, get educated about this right to slave stuff, so when you go back, this is an issue. It is life and death to us unionists, us true believers, right? Educate your co-workers. When there's a rally, a march, or a training like this, bring people. Get your co-workers out to this stuff. This is so important for our survival. Letters to the editors. You get all kind of teabaggers writing in. 2 of our guys, Paul was telling me, Paul Goodman is from U.S. Foods, and he was saying Sunday that some of his drivers heard the commercials for the Workplace Freedom Act down in the Cincinnati area. I was at a meeting with these guys Saturday, and 2 of the drivers who drive to Cincinnati said, oh yeah, we heard them. You know, they're out on the radio. Well, we got to start taking control of some of the media out here. The talk shows, call in, although they're all dominated by right-wingers, and you're going to get an argument, so you better have your facts when you call in on a talk show. We have text this number, 86466, or you can email teamsters.org. There's those things to stay on top of it, guys, right? Join the Teamster Facebook page. Fred's got a great one, and you should tell everybody what that Facebook is before you all leave here. But what we got to do is we see our coworkers in the shops. So we got to get in there in the shops and talk to our coworkers and get them involved. And the word is, just like 3,250,000 joined to stop Hitler, enlist people in this war on worker. We need an enlistment drive to stop this. We, the Teamsters, believe we got to lead the fight for this because we have the posters out there that at least are telling the truth. You see it here. Stop the war on workers. When I see the other unions, nothing against you, brothers, but you know, you talk, but that's a war. That's part of the educating. That's why I love our posters. Stop the war on workers, because that's what's going on, and it's on us to stop it. Thank you. Thanks, Fred.
Any questions, anybody? For Rick or anything?
Who ultimately is starting all this? You know, you said Koch brothers, whatever. I mean,